not everyone who is exposed to a TV spot will scan the code. And that portion of the audience that doesn't scan the code is still important. I mean, if only from the network's perspective, right? They still want to monetize those impressions. And it's also valuable to know, out of the X number of people that saw my brand's ad, Y% were compelled to scan the code.
Hey gang, it's Monday, April 11. Evelyn and listeners, welcome to the Behind the Numbers Daily, an e-marketer podcast made possible by mParticle. I'm Marcus, and today I'm joined by an analyst covering digital... Okay, Evelyn asked me to introduce her this way. This isn't my fault. She's an analyst covering digital marketing and media. It's Evelyn Mitchell. Let's say hi, Evelyn.
Hey, Marcus.
I don't know why. Why did you want me to introduce you that way?
Because I'm not the only analyst. No, I said
she's an analyst.
One of our analysts. That's what I said.
One of them. Okay. All right. I may have changed it. Anyway, today's real fact. Real fact? Real topic? Today's fact. Who knows what I'm talking about? We've got a fact for you. Listen up. How long do folks typically stay at their company? Well, do you want to have a guess, Evelyn, before we...
3 years.
Ooh. You might have seen this research before. That's close. An average number of years that an employee has worked at their current employer is currently just over 4 years.
Oh, okay.
According to an economic news release from the US Bureau of Labor Statistics. That's down slightly from the 4.5 a decade ago. So from 4.5 to 4, just over 4. So it's going down, but only by a little bit. This varies by age and occupation. The median tenure for workers 25 to 34, just shy of 3 years. So there's that 3 years. Those 55 to 64 is closer to 10.
Wow.
Big gap there. Yeah. Workers in management and professional services had an average tenure of 5 years. Workers in service jobs had a lower average tenure of 2. Why would you leave your job? The main reasons for employee turnover, according to Manila Recruitment, are bad bosses. Yep. 50% of 7,000 employees surveyed for this said they left their job to get away from their manager. Then second place was too much work. And then third was no recognition. Yeah, that's why people leave. Stuart, who runs our team, is great. He said if I wanted to keep my job, I had to say that. But I don't care. The New York Giants, Stuart, are a terrible team, okay? You need to know this. There, I said it. It's out there. Anyway, today's real topic, measuring video ads. That's what we'll do. Evelyn, you just finished a new report that came out April 1st called Ad Measurement 2022, the start of a new era measuring video. So let's start with this. What makes you say it's the start of a new era for measuring video?
So we're really witnessing a watershed moment here. I mean, for decades, Nielsen's TV measurement was kind of the de facto currency, the standard currency for buying TV ad inventory. And there's been resentment towards Nielsen kind of bubbling under the surface on the buy and sell side for years, mostly stemming from a perceived failure to adapt to an increasingly fragmented video landscape. I mean, consumers have a million places to watch content these days, and advertisers and networks saw that Nielsen's panel-based methodology couldn't really keep up. And then when the news broke last year that Nielsen had undercounted TV viewership during the pandemic, it was really like the dam finally broke. The MRC revoked its accreditation of Nielsen's measurement products. And then Nielsen competitors saw their opportunity to gain traction in the marketplace. And not just Nielsen's direct competitors. Many of the larger networks have also launched their own in-house initiatives to develop alternative currencies. So previously, it was impractical really to use any measurement currencies besides Nielsen. And regardless of its faults, that's just kind of what you were stuck with. But now we're seeing competition and collaboration kind of open the floodgates of innovation. So not only are there robust alternatives to Nielsen in the marketplace, advertisers are ready to try them. And we're in for a multi-currency upfront season. So we've officially moved out of what was the status quo, and that's our new era. Yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned robust alternatives. Let's jump to this for a second, because as you know, and I can attest to the number of times we've discussed a new video measurement solution that's been launched since Nielsen lost its accreditation from the MRC. You write that we could fill an entire report with coverage on measurement solutions that have launched or are expected to launch this year, demonstrating the sheer magnitude of the opportunity at hand. What are some of the main ones that you're keeping a closer eye on than others?
Yeah, so there are a few cross-platform solutions that have received a lot of hype. And most of the solutions that are destined to go far are cross-platform solutions. I'd venture to say that all of the solutions that are going to rise to the top are cross-platform. I mean, that's really the goal of all of this chaos and measurement right now, is to find a cross-platform, cross-screen currency that can give advertisers a view of video investment across their entire portfolio, online and offline, streaming, linear, everything. And so there are a few kind of higher profile solutions. One is Nielsen One, which has been a long time coming, and Nielsen hasn't been entirely wiped off the map by the loss of their MRC accreditation. But we still have a while before Nielsen One hits the marketplace in full. They're tracking towards Q4 of this year. ComScore Everywhere is another one I'm tracking, but really what I'm most excited about are these alternative currency initiatives from the networks themselves, or that the networks are putting their weight behind, because those are really new. Those are interesting. That's really the biggest change in the ad measurement landscape, at least in the video ad measurement landscape. And NBC Universal recently announced it's moving forward transacting against iSpot at this year's upfront. So it'll be really interesting to see how advertisers and networks work together to find which alternative currency works for individual brands, and kind of, roll up their sleeves and make it work, knowing that the MRC accreditation that has provided kind of a source of legitimacy in the past, it's not in play right now. None of these currencies are going to be accredited by the MRC by the time the upfronts roll around. So.
Right. You note in the report, designing and executing holistic video ad measurement systems that can serve as a currency is no easy feat. Measurement partners face several long-standing barriers. What are some of the biggest challenges here?
Sure. So there are three kind of major buckets. The first is convoluted data infrastructures that can lead to issues with data quality, data compatibility, data accessibility, and speed. And these are all issues that make it really difficult to, like I mentioned before, paint a complete picture of an advertiser's video investment across platforms and across screens, online and offline environments. And then we also have, number two, chaos in identity resolution, with third-party identifiers going away. I mean, identity is really important for measurement. Advertisers don't just want to know how many people they reach. They also want to know who they reached and how many times. That's important from a strategic perspective, as well as to minimize media waste and a host of other really important strategies and tactics. And then the third bucket is adaptability to the future. We just witnessed Nielsen's measurement regime kind of come crashing down because the methodology was outdated and it took too long to adapt. So vendors have their eye on a few things, like the metaverse that's poised to disrupt consumer behavior. And then there's also the moving target of privacy compliance. So there's a lot of hoops to jump through. But with the amount of innovation we're seeing right now, I think we're heading in the right direction, which is good.
Mm-hmm. So measurement, it's not just a video problem. And you had some data showing video measurement versus some of the other ad format measurements as well. How satisfied are marketers with measuring video ads versus measuring other formats like paid search or digital audio?
Yeah, so Advertiser Perceptions surveyed U.S. advertisers last year, and significantly fewer respondents were satisfied with their digital video campaign measurement than any other channel. Digital video ranked last at 38% of respondents satisfied, which isn't particularly surprising given digital video is notorious for lack of standardization and measurement and all of those other challenges that I just went through. So then after digital video, like above digital video, linear TV was on par with digital audio at 42%. Then digital display and streaming TV were kind of in the middle of the pack at 44 and 47% respectively. And then paid search and social were at the top with just 50% satisfaction. So none of these media categories are seeing more than half of advertisers satisfied with their measurements. So yeah, measurement is an area that is much in need of improvement these days.
Mm-hmm. So you're right that advertisers aren't going to stop investing in video while the industry works through the measurement challenge, given that US advertisers rank video as the most valuable tool for achieving advertising goals per an October 2021 Advertiser Perceptions survey. How do they know it's most valuable? Why aren't video ad dollars slowing down if it's so hard to measure compared to the other ad formats?
So Video is really important. Like you mentioned, it's a valuable tool for achieving advertising goals. One reason for that is that consumers spend a lot of time with video across environments. That's linear TV, which I know there's a lot of hype about viewership kind of eroding on linear channels, and that's true, but it's still, consumers still spend a lot of time watching TV on linear and streaming.
To a certain extent, yeah. I mean, if you're looking at the older demographics, they're still spending upwards of 4 or 5 hours a day. So yeah,
exactly.
Young people may spend less than an hour, but those older demographics are still hanging out in front of the TV.
Yeah. So it's a really great opportunity. It's a great touch point for advertisers. And then there's also, video is a really effective vehicle for storytelling in ways that other ad formats might not stack up to, depending on, the brand's goals. So dealing with less than ideal measurement is better than going dark on all video channels, essentially.
Doesn't seem like video ad spending is slowing down at all. US video ad spending will reach $76 billion this year. US money. Next year it will reach 91 billion. 91 billion would be 3 times what it was pre-pandemic 2019 and would account for a third of the total digital ad pie. Let's move over to QR codes for a second. Evelyn, after Coinbase's QR code screensaver style Super Bowl ad that was bouncing around, there's been a lot of conversation about QR codes in TV ads. And you have a section in your report which talks about it. You write QR codes fad or the future of measurement. Which one is it?
So they're definitely not a fad. I think QR codes are a really exciting avenue for exploration in video ad measurement, and particularly in linear TV measurement, because it allows a sort of bridging of online and offline environments. So there are a lot of cool opportunities to understand engagement beyond simple exposure to a message when a member of your exposed audience scans a QR code that's embedded into a spot. QR code tech is pretty easily made privacy compliant, and there's been an uptick in consumer adoption driven by pandemic-related use cases. So QR codes have a lot going for them, and I do think that they have a role to play in the future of video ad measurement. However, QR codes by themselves, in my opinion, are not the future of TV measurement, because the future.
Whoa.
Because
took a U-turn.
I know. Because not everyone who is exposed to a TV spot will scan the code. And that portion of the audience that doesn't scan the code is still important. I mean, if only from the network's perspective, right? They still want to monetize those impressions. And it's also valuable to know, out of the X number of people that saw my brand's ad, Y% were compelled to scan the code. So I'm doing something right. And there are a million interesting places to go from there in terms of strategy and research and optimization. But knowing the number of people that were exposed to the ad at all is key, and it's not something that QR codes can provide.
Yeah, it's a great point. Yeah, you mentioned an uptick in consumer adoption of QR codes. Our forecasting team expects 83 million Americans to scan a QR code with their smartphones this year. 83 million. It's about a quarter of the US population. Finally, Evelyn, how will video ad measurement change in the next year?
So there are 2 big trends happening in video ad measurement. First is that linear TV is moving away from ad measurement based on programs to ad measurement based on the actual ads. And historically, Nielsen's C3, C7 rating systems averaged commercial ratings across all of the commercials in a program, which could be problematic if, like, the last commercial in the last pod of a program. Let's say we're watching a sports game where one team pulls so far ahead of the other that a portion of the audience stops watching halfway through the game. That last ad in the last pod, they're going to have fewer people exposed to it than the first ad in the first pod. So that can be problematic. So measuring the viewership of individual ads allows for more precise measurement of each ad's performance. And it also makes it easier to unify reach of a particular campaign or creative asset across linear TV, CTV, and digital video. And second, the industry is shifting towards outcomes-based measurement beyond reach and frequency. So that's things like understanding the actual impact of your media, of your TV spots, beyond just, okay, how many people did I reach? It's what did those people do next?
Yeah, and we talked about this as one of my unpopular opinions on a weekly listen, which was we've got to start measuring things differently, more granularly. Is that a word? It is now, because the way we measure things is just how many people did it hit, or, high-level figures like what was GDP, but let's go a little bit deeper and really figure out engagement metrics, or metrics that actually mean something a little bit more than how many things did you produce or how many people did my ad reach. That's all we've got time for the lead. It's time now for the halftime report. Evelyn, we covered a lot. If you could give us just one takeaway from the first half that you want the listeners to remember.
This year is shaping up to be a really big deal in video ad measurement. So many players attempting to put stakes in the ground as far as alternative currencies go. It's still pretty much the Wild West at this point, but innovation in this space is starting to bear some real fruit, and the ultimate goal of cross-platform, cross-screen measurement is on the horizon.
All right, time for In Other News, but first, a quick word from our sponsor, mParticle. At the end of the day, your customer has to be at the center of everything you do. This starts with the right customer data strategy, as well as the right foundation to solve the challenges that typically inhibit success, such as data quality, data governance, and connectivity. mParticle is your real-time customer data infrastructure that helps you accelerate your data strategy by cleansing, visualizing, and integrating your customer data from anywhere to anywhere. Ultimately, better data leads to better decisions, better customer experiences, and better outcomes. See why the best brands choose mParticle. Go to www.mparticle.com. Folks, we're back. Today in other news, Nielsen gets new ownership. And what's the most important thing to think about this year when it comes to programmatic digital display advertising? Story 1, a consortium of private equity players have agreed to buy longtime TV ratings standard Nielsen for over $16 billion. But Nielsen faces the same challenges as before, writes Insider Intelligence briefing director Jeremy Goldman. The deal will be completed in the second half of this year if Nielsen shareholders and UK regulators give the okay. The short history: last September, the Media Ratings Council took Nielsen's National Ratings Services accreditation, which Evelyn explained in the first half, citing viewership underreporting during the pandemic. But Evelyn, the new ownership for Nielsen means blank.
It doesn't mean much. Nielsen's had a pretty rough go of it recently, and justifiably so, I think. And they were ripe for the picking. But at this point, it won't really change anything in the short term. You know, Nielsen lost the trust of advertisers and networks really at this point, and it's going to take time and effort to earn that back. So the change in leadership isn't really going to do that. It will, however, likely affect strategic priorities, Nielsen's business goals in the long term. But, you know, we'll have to kind of sit tight and see how that goes.
Story 2. Your previous report, Evelyn, US programmatic digital display ad spending 2022 recently came out, and it points out that advertisers will spend $123 billion on US programmatic digital display ad spending this year. That's up 16% on the $100 billion mark it crossed last year. But in your opinion, the most interesting takeaway from the whole report was blank.
This is a tough one, but I think the most interesting takeaway is the share shift between transaction methods. So advertisers are shifting spend out of the open exchange and into private marketplaces. And in the open exchange, anyone can sell programmatic inventory and anyone can buy it. In private marketplaces, it's usually one seller or a handful of sellers that package premium inventory for a select few invited buyers. And private marketplaces offer a variety of benefits, or at least they're perceived to offer benefits, like protection against ad fraud, insulation against brand safety risks. So it's really interesting to see this share shift play out.
That is all we have time for. Evelyn, thank you so much for hanging out.
Thank you, Marcus.
My pleasure. Thanks to Victoria, who edits the show, and thanks to everyone listening. We'll see you tomorrow for the Behind the Numbers Daily, an eMarketer podcast made possible by mParticle.